This is Dateline NBC. Tonight,
Rip-offs at the gas pump. How you can be overcharged, your car's engine ruined. We'll show you what they do and how they do it.
If you buy 10 gallons, you're only getting 9. Is that right?
What you don't see, contaminated gas.
The gasoline looked like chocolate milk.
Cheap gas sold as high-test.
You'd have no way of knowing whether or not you were cheated.
Pumps rigged to jip you.
You cheating people here at this station?
No. And what are you here for?
The life and death wait for organ transplants. This woman on the list for 18 months and still waiting for a heart and lung. And for this woman, 6 months and counting for a liver and still no operation. But this man waited only 48 hours for a heart and liver. Is it because he's the governor of Pennsylvania?
Is he a special human being? Is he any better than my wife?
Tonight, could someone you love die waiting? She'll be in prison till after the year 2000. No possibility of parole. Some jurors say her sentence is unfair.
10 years for a phone call, I just don't see it.
But incredibly, the man who attacked her mother,
He says, I'm going to rape you and then I'm going to kill you.
he could be back on the streets in just 3 years. If that's justice, who's being served?
And classic Hollywood blunders. There's something wrong with every one of these movies.
There's a big
Mistake.
Can you see what's wrong?
How can we possibly have the slightst idea what to expect?
Stay tuned. Tonight, we'll show you. Plus, Dateline's Picture of the Week.
Dateline with anchors Stone Phillips in New York and Jane Pauley in Florida. With Brian Ross, Deborah Roberts, John Scott, and Lee Thompson. Now from our studios in New York, here is Stone Phillips.
Good evening. We begin tonight with a case of highway robbery. Literally. It's a scam so clever, you may be a victim and not even know it. And yet for the perpetrators, the potential exists for enormous takes of cash. It all happens on the road, which is where Jane is tonight.
Thanks, Stone. Traditionally, this coming weekend, the 4th of July, is one of the busiest driving holidays of the year, which means that in the week ahead, Americans will buy more than $2 billion worth of gasoline. No, Americans will spend more than $2 billion, but will we get our money's worth? Dateline has discovered that some stations have systematic ways of ripping you off every time you fill up. For the last 2 months, Dateline has been out at the pumps, and tonight Brian Ross shows us a few pages from the gas station Book of Tricks.
I'll never forget Marble Day when a pen was called away. Hung of his fiddle, hung out his bow, he knew it was time for him to go.
This is the Cowboy Bar in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. A big tourist attraction in a state that is full of tourist attractions. From the Wild West towns and cowboy shootouts to the majesty of the Grand Tetons and the thrill of legendary Old Faithful at Yellowstone National Park. This summer, an estimated 6 million people will visit Wyoming, one of the top 3 places for Americans who drive to their summer vacations.
When you've got your kids in the car and you're taking them to Yellowstone, the last person you want to see is me.
But auto mechanic Gary Jensen says the fact is, a lot of people coming to Wyoming this summer will end up spending more time in a repair shop than in Yellowstone.
And when they get here, a lot of their comments are, well, it was running fine until I filled it up at such and such, and, now I've got this problem.
And this is the problem. Clogged carburetors, messed up fuel injectors.
If it gets something plugged up in it, it won't fire into your throttle plate, which is your...
Cars that just don't run. According to Gary Jensen, all too often caused by bad gasoline. Gas that's contaminated or adulterated by gas stations out to cheat motorists. That's what happened to Rose and Jim Core. They ended up in Gary Jensen's Cheyenne repair shop with a car that wouldn't run after just one $10 tank of gas from the wrong Wyoming gas station.
I was mad. I mean, I wanted to find out what was in the gas.
It looked like the wax from one of those lamps that melts the wax and recirculates it. It was a glob like that floating around, a clear glob.
Like a lava lamp?
But it wasn't funny when the Corps got the bill. $758 to repair the damage caused by the bad gasoline. And bad gasoline is just one of the ways Americans may be cheated at the pump this summer, in a problem that goes far beyond Wyoming.
There are about 150 million drivers in America. About a third of them are at risk, if you will, to consumer fraud.
Paul Verkyle is the president of the American Automobile Association, the AAA. And this summer, the AAA has issued warnings about bad gasoline and other possible cheating at the pump in some 22 states. States that have no laws on gas quality, or like Wyoming, don't enforce what laws there are.
In those 22 states, on your chart, who's watching out for the consumer at the gas pump?
Right now, really no one is watching out for the consumer.
Anything could be going on there, and no one really is checking it.
That's exactly right.
Look what's being sold as gasoline, for example, in Oregon, another state where there is no gas testing program. At the bottom of this sample, a layer of sediment, some kind of particles that would clog any car engine. This sample looks more like orange juice than gasoline. It's mostly cloudy water with some kind of floating debris or crud on top. There's hardly any actual gasoline in it. It was sold as premium gasoline to a motorist whose car broke down just outside the gas station. And even in those states where someone is trying to check up on gas quality, there are still plenty of problems, as we found in California. There's probably no one in America who's been cheated more at the gas pump than Maria Hernandez of Orange County, California. That's because it's her job to get cheated.
And we have an undercover tank inside the trunk.
Maria Hernandez is an undercover gas investigator for the state, whose secret weapon is a car with a specially equipped gas tank in the trunk.
So when you open the gas tank...
Pops open like this.
Right.
Unscrew the cap.
And it's going not into the car's gas tank?
No.
But into your special gas tank?
Yes.
What happens most days to Maria Hernandez, in a state that does have tough gas quality laws, is a roadmap to the kind of problems that may be worse in other parts of the country where no one is looking.
It's a lot of money. It's a big ripoff.
Using hidden cameras, we spent several days on the road with Maria Hernandez as she collected one undercover tankful after another, trying to catch the latest gas scam or ripoff.
How do you feel going around trying to get cheated by gas stations?
Well, I wish it wasn't quite as frequent as it is.
One of the most common forms of cheating is the simple trick of passing off cheaper low-octane gasoline as high-octane or premium.
And is there that much money to be made by cheating on octane?
Sure there is. The difference is about 30 cents a gallon. So the average car fills up about 10 gallons, and that's approximately $3 of an overcharge.
And to do that, they have to put the lower octane into the higher octane big tanks in the ground.
Yes.
So they know what they're doing.
Yes.
But octane cheating is nothing compared to some of the things California investigators see. In the last year, 1 out of 6 gas stations tested had problems with its gas. Not all of it visible to the naked eye, but including all kinds of crud, sediment, water, even unrefined oil that should never end up in a car engine.
We found just raw crude at a station one.
Raw crude oil?
Just almost. It was a 74 octane gasoline.
What does that do to a car?
Not much. It's real rough on a car.
The technicians at the state lab showed us what happens when gasoline like that is put in a car engine. Pings and knocks, and the so-called knock meter on this test engine, which should read about 0, now up to 80. A full tank of that kind of gasoline could wreck an engine.
They would just park the trucks over top. These places here are the...
And just how gasoline like that is ending up for sale in California and elsewhere is one of the dirty little secrets of the gasoline business.
Now, would the customers ever know what they were getting?
No, a customer would not know that he was getting...
A secret Ed Scott knows all about. Scott, who used to work for one of California's biggest gas station operators, says what's going on is something called cocktailing. using big tanker trucks to mix gasoline with cheap waste oil that can be bought in large quantities at refineries, where it's known as transmixed.
And essentially transmix is slop. It's garbage gas.
They would buy this gasoline garbage, this slop, as you call it.
Right.
And put it in the regular gasoline?
They would mix it in the gasoline.
Kind of making a little, a cocktail of their own.
Little cocktail of their own. There were times that I saw samples taken out of their tanks where the gasoline looked like chocolate milk.
And there's a long list of California gas stations where state investigators say they have discovered suspect gas, including this Texaco dealership, which has been caught twice since 1987, once after several cars were badly damaged. Most of the stations caught by investigators have been independent gas stations, but the list does include 6 other Texaco dealers cited in the last year. Texaco says it does not tolerate the sale of substandard gasoline by its dealers, and in fact does its own random gas testing. But Texaco would not agree to appear on Dateline, and the fact is, 5 of the 7 Texaco stations on this list continue today to sell gasoline under the Texaco banner. In our week of taping Undercover with California investigator Maria Hernandez, we came across one final sneaky scheme to cheat at the pump that astounded even the investigators. It was right at the pump, rigged pumps, in this case, at a big Arco dealer in Orange County.
We need Polaroids of the dispensers and the actual front of the station.
Investigators say they had already been cheated once at the station.
And it was pump number 11. Can I go to the island next to the white van?
Yes. And on this day, Maria Hernandez was heading out to see if she would get cheated one more time before taking action.
We are looking for anything over 10.4 gallons.
10.4 gallons is all the undercover tank in the trunk holds. If the gas pump shows a sale of anything more than that, Maria will know instantly she was cheated.
This is pump number 11.
This station had just passed an official inspection of its pumps, but investigators had a tip that there was some kind of remote control device that could turn the cheating on and off.
10 gallons. 10.5 gallons. 11 gallons.
Again, the special undercover tank only holds 10.4 gallons.
11.5 gallons now. So they cheated you?
Yes. It was a rip.
To confirm she had been cheated, a team of county weights inspectors nearby conducted a precise measurement of the gas, down to the last drop. Maria paid for 11.6 gallons of gas. She only got 10.3 gallons. A ripoff of $1.60.
A station like that, what can they make, given that kind of cheating, in a month, for instance?
I would say it could be anywhere between $10,000 and $20,000.
A month?
A month.
Just cheating like this?
Yes.
And this is not the only station out there doing this?
No, it's not the only station doing it.
And then, to check out the tip the station would stop cheating whenever an official came in, a marked truck from the county waste department was sent to the same pump where Maria Hernandez had just been cheated. As suspected, the pump then gave an accurate reading, more proof for investigators of a very clever cheating scheme. And then it was time to move in and shut the station down.
Hi, station owner here?
The pumps were sealed.
The gas is no good, is that it?
Customers turned away.
Well, we're doing an investigation right now.
And investigators went looking for the owner.
We have a problem here at your station. Are you able to come down now?
Hi, Brian Ross. Hey, Dateline NBC News.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah.
You cheating people here at this station?
No.
When the owner, David Berry, showed up, he wasn't very happy to see investigators, and even less happy to see Dateline cameras.
Why? Because you're sitting here accusing me of something I'm not doing. So just get off my property. It's ridiculous.
Well, if you don't have anything to hide...
I don't, but
okay,
I don't want to have
fine.
this kind of reputation.
But in a backroom circuit box, investigators say they found what they were looking for. A hidden set of remote control switches, which they quickly sealed up. Investigators say the switches could somehow make the counters on the pump speed up, producing a regular shortchanging of about 10% each time a customer bought gas. You have a switch somewhere you throw? You cheat people?
No.
You don't cheat anybody?
No.
Berry denies it all, but California authorities are now deciding whether to bring criminal or civil charges based on what they found here. Until then, Berry was allowed to reopen, but no longer as ARCO. 24 hours after ARCO became aware of what it called substantial evidence, ARCO canceled its contract with Berry and took down all its signs.
Super unleaded is pump number 3.
Every time Maria Hernandez is cheated at the pump, whether it's rigged pumps, or octane cheating, or adulterated gas, or some other scheme, every time she's cheated,
You're shut down.
there are hundreds, maybe thousands of others who have already been cheated in the same way, but have no way to know it or to prove it. It may be only 30 cents a gallon or $3 a fill-up, but in a business that sells $150 billion a year in gasoline, a little bit can add up to a lot.
This month in Wyoming, where we started our report, complaints from motorists and pressure from AAA led the state to begin testing gasoline for the first time ever. When the full results are in, we'll bring you an update. And if you suspect you've been cheated, experts advise calling AAA and the Office of your state Attorney General. It can help build a case against crooked gas stations.
Coming up, she got mixed up in her boyfriend's drug deal. 10 years without parole. But this would-be rapist could be back on the street in months. Is this justice?
Kiss me for the last time.
And later, can you tell what's wrong with these movies? Classic cases of continuity conflict.
I'll get him out again. I'm a kid.
I'm a 35-year-old woman who loves Kellogg's Frosted Flakes. This is my story. I knew it was for kids, so I had an arrangement with the stock boy at the market. I'd pay for it, and when the coast was clear, he'd hand over the box, and that Frosted Crunch would be mine. All mine. Of course, it's all behind me now. They deliver.
There's no disguising it. Frosted Flakes have the taste adults have grown to love. They're great.
What could be better than a spectacular Baskin-Robbins ice cream cone? How about making it a double dip? For just 59 cents more. So come on, get that 30 wonderful feeling.
Look out, America. The Choiceosaurus Sweepstakes is coming to Comfort Inns, Hotels, and Suites. You could win one of thousands of dinosaur prizes, or one of 7 weekly $50,000 giveaways. Just pick up an entry form at any participating hotel, and you could also win the grand prize, $1 million in cash. Call 1-800-4CHOICE because offers like this happen once every 60 million years.
This year, Subway will climb up to become the second largest restaurant chain in North America behind McDonald's. To celebrate, we're having a 2-cent sale. Everyone who buys a medium or large soft drink wins delicious Subway food for just 2 cents. Look for the 2-cent sale banner at Subway.
Okay, now, I am an optimist who has become very skeptical about fat-free salad dressings. So, naturally, when Healthy Sensation promised great honey Dijon taste, I thought, yeah, right. Just like you're thinking now. But Healthy Sensation has this sweet honey tangy Dijon thing. It's very creamy. It's very good. So try it. All you've got to lose is your cynicism.
Healthy Sensation. Taste and believe.
Wednesday, bizarre new clues in a real-life murder mystery.
We had uncovered a human skeleton.
You could be the link to catching the killer on Unsolved Mysteries. Then they came to mourn a loved one. But when the family left for home, it happened. Their helicopter crashed. Meet the survivors on eyewitness video after Unsolved Mysteries on NBC Wednesday.
Remember when the drug war dominated the news a few years back? All you heard was, get tough. Congress answered with mandatory sentencing. 10, 20, 30 years in prison without parole. But now many people are wondering, how effective and fair is that? Consider the crimes of 2 people in Deborah Roberts' report whose lives intertwined. One is Nicole Richardson. She'll be in prison until after the year 2000. Tonight, we ask you to compare her mandatory sentence with what this man got. John Dwayne Yarbrough's crime was brutal and violent.
Isn't it so pretty? It's hard to find 2 people closer than 21-year-old Nicole Richardson and her mother, Angela.
And this is Home Sweet Home.
Last Mother's Day, the 2 spent the weekend catching up at Nicole's new home.
the federal prison camp in Alderson, West Virginia. Nicole is serving a 10-year sentence for drug conspiracy.
Are you guilty of anything?
Guilty of letting something go on without doing something about it. And here, you know, I was a little kid getting mixed up with the wrong people, and I have a 10-year sentence with no possibility of parole, and that is so unfair. That's so unfair.
How did a former high school cheerleader become a federal prisoner? It all started 3 years ago at a former Biloxi, Mississippi night spot called the Fiesta Club. It was the hottest spot for miles around. Teenagers flocked here to drink, dance, and frequently deal drugs. One of the dealers was a good-looking 20-year-old bodybuilder named Jeff Thompson. Nicole met him one night on the dance floor.
So you were in love?
Yes. And as we were dating, that's when I started to realize what he was doing.
And that was fine with you?
It wasn't really fine with me, but I really, really liked him. So I just looked over it.
You did drugs too?
I've experimented with it. At the club, a lot of people were either drinking or on drugs, and I was curious to see what it was about. So I experimented some.
Nicole says she stopped experimenting after she and Jeff became more serious, and she stopped her weekly trips to the Fiesta Club, hoping he would quit dealing. But Jeff was making too much money selling LSD. That is until August of 1990, when one of Jeff's runners, a man named Billy Barnes, drove into this parking lot and sold $6,000 worth of LSD to an undercover cop. Arrested, threatened with a mandatory sentence of 15 or 20 years unless he cooperated, Barnes agreed to tape incriminating phone calls to everyone he knew, including Nicole. He told her how he never got the $6,000 he owed Jeff, money that was supposed to go to a dangerous, unstable drug dealer.
And didn't you get the money first? These people, I ain't kidding, they want to kill somebody.
When can I get hold of Jeff?
Hold on. Looking for his phone number. Okay, it's 653-5172.
His phone call to Nicole did her in.
Now, in that conversation, it sounds like you're trying to help put him together with Jeff so they can complete this deal. I mean, it sounds like you're involved.
Well, sure. I was worried about my life. I was afraid for both of us.
But two of the drug dealers told a different story. Agreeing to cooperate with the government and avoid long prison sentences, they testified that Nicole was a major player in the drug ring, even though her boyfriend swore she was not. Still, for their testimony against Nicole and each other, the dealers cut deals with the government. None of them is serving more than a 5-year sentence. A few are already out of jail. Richard Shields was Nicole's lawyer.
People were all 20, 21, 22. And you take somebody that age and you tell them either you testify and implicate some people and cooperate with the government, or you're going to get 15, 18 years, which is what we were talking about with some of these people. Well, by God, they're going to start saying whatever they need to say, and whether it's true or not is immaterial to these people. And why the government can't see that and the prosecutor can't see that is beyond me.
Nicole insists she had no one to rat on, no way to cut a deal. So she alone went to trial, charged with conspiracy to sell LSD.
In my mind, there was no question but that she had done the things she was accused of doing.
The phone call was set up. I had 10 years for a phone call. I just don't see it.
Jurors Bruce Goldsmith and Paul Rowland couldn't agree on the evidence. Only Rowland believed Nicole was innocent.
It got to a point where people in the jury room was really getting mad, you know, because they wanted to go home.
So they were getting angry with you for holding out. Did that put pressure on you?
They put a lot of pressure on me. And that's why I changed my mind.
The jurors weren't allowed to consider, weren't even supposed to know that under the federal mandatory sentencing law, a guilty verdict meant an automatic 10-year sentence. Many are now stunned to learn that Nicole is serving that much time.
I think it was a real travesty of justice. If these are really mandatory sentences, why did the people who were truly harmful to society get off with such light sentences, and Nicole get the brunt of the punishment?
She didn't hurt nobody. She didn't sell it to no kids. She was mixed up. She wasn't dangerous.
If you had known for sure she was going to get 10 years, would you have voted guilty?
We'd still be sitting in that jury room.
But because they voted guilty, the federal trial judge was left with no discretion. The judge who heard Nicole's case was Judge Alex Howard, a Reagan appointee known for his tough sentences. Yet after her conviction, he said this: "In all of my experience, this case presents to me the top example of a miscarriage of justice, due to the minimum mandatory sentencing, which I abhor, and due to what I deem to be a dreadful mistake in the guidelines."
I have no regrets about my role in this prosecution. I simply did my job.
Assistant U.S. Attorney Gloria Bedwell prosecuted Nicole.
When you look at the outcome of this case, the drug dealers did 6 months, 2 to 4 years. Nicole, who is a character who was just involved in this case, has gotten 10 years. Surely, you can't think that this looks like equal justice.
Nicole Richardson was a convicted drug offender. She has no more or no less culpability under the guideline scheme that has been established by Congress and the Sentencing Commission than any other person in the United States who is similarly situated.
Are the streets safer because Nicole is in prison for 10 years?
Yes.
Do you think the streets are safer because you're here?
No, I don't. Would you be afraid of me if I was on the street?
I keep her room just like she had it. Every little stuffed animal, every little trinket sitting right where she had it when she left. So I want her to feel like she's not been gone when she comes home. I'm not going to stop working till my baby's home.
So Nicole's mother, Angela, has written to Congress, to Attorney General Janet Reno, and even to President Clinton's mother, arguing that her daughter's punishment doesn't fit her crime. If ever there was a doubt in Angela's mind, it was erased a year and a half ago when she met John Dwayne Yarbrough.
My baby was going to call at 8 o'clock, and I knew it. And just as I'm going in the door, the phone rings. And so I just slammed the door. I didn't lock it. All of a sudden, my bedroom door bursts open, and he's there. And before I can say anything, he knocked me backwards, jumped straddle of me.
All of a sudden, she just starts screaming, and I'm sitting here on the phone, and she's screaming, "No." And she throws the phone down, and I hear it hit the floor.
He throws the phone, finally, and it didn't get on the thing. It fell. And he says, I'm going to rape you, and then I'm going to kill you. And he said, and if you fight, I'm going to kill you and then rape you.
And I was screaming and crying, and I was beating on the door, and I was saying, "Somebody come help me, help me."
And then he starts hitting me, and I turned my head as far as I could to keep him from messing up my face.
Finally, one of the guards had come over, and I told him to call the police, that somebody's killing my mother.
And my mouth fills up with blood, and I'm choking. And I'm fighting, and I don't know what happened after that until all of a sudden he jumps up and grabs the door, and I tried to fight, get past him. And he slammed me upside the wall, and I just started screaming, "Help me, help me." And the police burst in the room and threw him down and handcuffed him. I've never been so glad to see a uniform in my life.
It was really bad because I couldn't get to her. Locked in a little cell, and there's nothing I could do.
Yarbrough was arrested and, like Nicole, is now in prison. But the crimes he pleaded guilty to, attempted rape and sodomy, are state crimes, and they carry no minimum mandatory sentence. So, counting time served, Yarbrough could be back on the streets by 1996.
You look so good, darling.
Thank you.
While Nicole can look forward to prison life until after the year 2000. Her appeal has been denied, and Nicole is learning the hardest lesson under mandatory sentencing: to give up hoping.
And then it breaks your heart when you have hope and then everything falls through. So I tried just to make the best of it. And if you say, well, I've got 10 years to do, it's easier to handle that than wishing you could go home every day. Because that's not reality.
Both Attorney General Janet Reno and the Supreme Court's Chief Justice William Rehnquist say they are concerned that violent criminals are getting out early to make room for first-time offenders with mandatory sentences. A House Judiciary Subcommittee will begin hearings next month to reconsider mandatory sentencing.
Coming up, she's been waiting a year and a half for a double organ transplant, but this governor waited only 48 hours.
And who's making the judgments? Who's making the calls of who lives and dies?
And later, fire and water, Dateline's Picture of the Week.
It's here. For your brand new baby, a brand new film.
The Kodak moment.
Introducing Kodak Gold Ultra 400. A new film so versatile, it can catch rich, accurate colors in almost any light. Day and night. New Kodak Gold Ultra 400. Would you trust your moments to anything less?
Can you shout out tough grass stains?
Sure. After 3 tries.
Then try Stain Out, a new technology from Clorox. Stain Out attacks and breaks up stains others leave behind.
Clorox Stain Out. Once in, stains are out.
I'm Elizabeth Ashley, and I have big news for anyone who wants to lose weight and loves chocolate. Ultra Slim Fast has created 2 new incredibly delicious chocolate flavors. There's rich, creamy chocolate malt and divinely decadent chocolate fudge, each with the nutrition of a balanced meal. The plan is easy. I lost 25 pounds in 12 weeks. Try these fabulous new flavors. Now you can have your chocolate and lose weight, too.
Buy one and get one free. Ultra Slim Fast. Give us a week. We'll take off the weight.
Save now on Goodyear for a limited time only. Save on selected Goodyear passenger car radials. Save on selected Goodyear Eagles for performance cars and on selected Goodyear Wranglers for light trucks and vans. The time is now. The savings are big. The name is Goodyear.
What exactly does the Maytag repairman do all day? It's probably not fixing washers and dryers, because we build them to last longer and need fewer repairs. Solitario. Lonely. So whatever old Lonely's doing, it's okay with us. Because the less time he spends doing his job, the better we've done ours. Maytag, the dependability people.
Now a Dateline timeline. All the following events happened during the 4th week of June. But do you know what the year was? Mikhail Baryshnikov defected to the West while touring Canada. Martin Luther King's mother, Alberta, was shot to death in Atlanta. Chris Evert won her first Wimbledon title. The best-selling book was Watership Down. The Exorcist was the big movie draw. And the hot single was Sundown by Gordon Lightfoot.
A woman at the crossroads of life.
This is my decision.
Forced to choose between the family she loves and the man she married.
I don't want anyone to get hurt.
Sisters, NBC Thursday.
Rabies. You could be at risk. The disease is spreading, so what can you do to protect your family and pets this summer? Find out on NBC Nightly News tomorrow.
Introducing Friendly's new Chicken Oriental Salad. The new Chef Salad. And the new Seafood Salad. Each of which comes with a free yogurt or watermelon roll sundae. A friendly reminder that your salad days are just beginning.
The lone survivor of a car crash is called a murderer on the next current affair.
So, what year was it? Baryshnikov defected, Evert won Wimbledon, Sundown was the hit song. It all happened during the 4th week of June, 1974.
From our studios in New York, here again is Stone Phillips.
In America, on any given day, 6 people die waiting for a heart or a liver transplant. One person that didn't happen to is Pennsylvania Governor Bob Casey. Only 48 hours after it was determined he needed a heart and a liver transplant, he was given both. a decision doctors justified because he was critically ill and matching organs were available. That quick response probably saved his life. But as Lee Thompson reports, it has also raised questions about preferential treatment and touched off a national debate over basic fairness. With so many people waiting in line, who goes first?
This beeper is always on Kim Fisher's waist, or at least nearby, but she's not waiting for a business call.
I just pick it up every morning, I just attach it to my clothes, and it just goes with me.
The call Kim is waiting for could mean the difference between life and death.
It's been tough. I mean, I wouldn't wish this on anybody. Every day I wake up wondering, is today the day that my life's going to change? Is today the day that I get the call?
This is what Kim is waiting for, a new heart. Kim desperately needs a heart-lung transplant. Since birth, only one of her lungs has worked, and because of it, her heart is damaged beyond repair.
I'm tired a lot. I have a hard time walking up steps. I can't run. I used to work out. I can't do that anymore.
What did the doctors tell you would happen if you didn't get a transplant?
I would die.
So in your case, your only chance is a transplant?
Yes.
Kim, who lives in New Jersey, has been on 3 separate transplant lists for over 18 months. And on June 12th, like every other day, she was still waiting. That's the day Pennsylvania Governor Robert Casey entered Presbyterian University Hospital in Pittsburgh for tests. Casey has amyloidosis, a rare liver disease. Just the day before, at a press conference, the governor said he felt fine, that he had asked doctors for no special treatment, and that his tests would be routine.
I believe any reasonable person would do the same thing.
But doctors say tests showed Casey was in far worse condition than he appeared, and he needed a new heart and liver fast. So even though there were 6 patients ahead of him at Presbyterian Hospital already waiting for hearts and 2 waiting for livers, within 48 hours of entering the hospital, Casey had his new organs.
The organs are working excellently.
That quick series of events has triggered a heated controversy.
Well, the swift acquisition of a donor for the governor set off a flood of protest calls.
Now, people charge the governor received special or preferential treatment.
The organization whose computers located Casey's donor was fielding complaints.
Some of those donors, as they call the procurement centers, threatened reportedly to rip up their donor cards.
Even though Casey's office, his doctors, and the hospital deny it, there have even been questions a young man who was severely beaten a few days before was kept alive on machines so his organs could go to Casey. Kim herself could not qualify for the heart the governor got. She has a different blood type. Still, she is furious because she believes it is one more example of how the whole transplant system is unfair.
And I just had such a hard time believing that there wasn't somebody else who was on their deathbed, in such a critical condition that they might not have lived another hour, that needed those organs also. So I believe that, yeah, I do believe that he was put on the top of the list because of who he is.
If those allegations are out there, they're not true.
Dr. Thomas Starzl heads the transplant center at Presbyterian Hospital at the University of Pittsburgh. He built it into the leading transplant center in the country, one of only 2 places where heart-liver transplants are done.
But you can understand why people might wonder how a man who goes to a press conference on Friday can be so sick on Sunday that he goes to the head of the line.
Right. It's the brain, not the heart, that drives people to maintain life's functions right up to the last moment. And Governor Casey was one of those unusual people that was going to extract the most of what he had.
The whole presentation of Governor Casey's situation may have backfired on him.
Sociologist Renee Fox, who studies medical issues, has doubts about the hospital's version of the governor's case.
But it seems to me almost inconceivable that he could have been sped into the hospital, short-circuited the elaborate workup process, and gone straight to the operating room in such a very short period of time.
Unlike most transplant patients, Dr. Starzl concedes Governor Casey never had to be hooked up to life support machines. But he says tests confirmed he needed both a new heart and liver. So Casey was able to move into the #1 slot because for the last 10 years, the hospital has given priority to those needing 2 organs rather than 1. If Presbyterian didn't have that policy, Starzl says, patients would have to wait on 2 separate lists and they would die before they ever got a transplant.
It's important to have both organs from the same donor.
By having this policy, aren't you deciding that people who need 2 organs have more of a right to live than people who only need 1 organ?
The policy may be right, it may be wrong, but it is the policy.
But the United Network for Organ Sharing, UNOS, the federally funded organization that monitors donations, says what happened in Pittsburgh does raise a lot of questions. UNOS plans an audit of the Casey heart liver surgery, only the 7th ever done, and says it will look at whether the dual organ policy at Presbyterian is in place mainly to further research.
Just to cut to the heart of the question, these cases are not done for research purposes.
UNOS is also reviewing the incredible coincidence of how a donor was found so soon.
Doctor, what are the odds of finding a donor as fast as you did in Governor Casey's situation?
Oh, they're very small. Finding a donor under those circumstances in the same town this quickly, I think, are quite remote.
No one here in Pittsburgh is questioning that Casey certainly had the luck of the Irish, and for a number of reasons. Casey came to the only hospital where a dual transplant puts you at the top of the list. Casey is 61. Just a few years ago, before the federal guidelines were changed, he would have been too old for a transplant. And Casey only waited 24 hours. The average wait for just a heart in this country is 6.5 months.
And Casey had something else going for him that most Americans don't. Because he is a state employee, his insurance will cover what may be $1 million bill. That gap in insurance coverage has rekindled the debate over how expensive transplants can be and how hard it is to get them paid for.
My liver is deteriorating now, and it's in failure, so I don't figure it's going to be too much longer.
Evelyn Zeller has been told her liver may give out at any time. She is waiting for a transplant at Presbyterian, the same hospital where Governor Casey's life was saved. Evelyn has the same blood type as Governor Casey, but not the same insurance coverage.
I mean, I know his family probably wants him around just like my family does. And I've got 3 grandchildren, and I want to be around for them.
But Evelyn's battle to stay around for her family and to get a transplant have become a fight about insurance and money. And she and her husband Kiefer are losing.
So to get it done, I had to have a check for $208,000 as an initial deposit. I thought they were joking. I said, where do you think I'm going to get $208,000 at? And he just shrugged his shoulders and walked away.
The Zellers say Presbyterian told them until they came up with the money, Evelyn could not even go on the transplant list. Kiefer's health insurance did pay $25,000 for tests, but it won't pay for the transplant. Medicaid will kick in, but only 70%.
You have to have 100%. If you don't have 100% for the liver, you don't get the liver. That's it. Forget it, Charlie.
Officials from this hospital have said that no one will be turned away because they don't have enough money. Does that go for the transplant center as well?
As far as I'm concerned, that goes in spades for the transplant center.
We have a letter from this hospital to Evelyn Zeller that says, we will put you on the transplant list, but first, you have to come up with $208,000.
If you will show it to me, I would ask them to reconsider such a policy.
Dr. Starzl, the man who put the transplant program at Presbyterian on the map, says he wasn't aware of the required 100% down payment before a transplant.
You don't like that policy?
No, I really wouldn't approve of that policy.
Starzl promises to look into Evelyn's case. But it's too late for him to do anything for Eric Wilson.
We were to come to Pittsburgh. All the arrangements had been made. He would be admitted, be evaluated for a transplant, and get a liver.
A congenital problem destroyed Joyce Wilson's husband's liver.
And when you got there, the hospital wouldn't let you in.
Right.
32-year-old Eric Wilson was denied admission to Presbyterian because his insurance was not in order. While waiting to get in, he collapsed.
My husband was getting worse. They were not going to do anything as far as a transplant until the financial aspect had been cleared. He was put in intensive care Tuesday. He went into a coma on Wednesday.
And his time ran out.
Right.
Are you bitter about that?
Very. It still hurts. I'm still angry when I hear about people getting transplants. It's a little sad. I'm happy for them, but it still hurts that somebody else got them and my husband couldn't get it.
Joyce Wilson and her 2 children sued Presbyterian Hospital. Last November, a jury awarded them $300,000 after deciding that when the hospital invited Eric to come, it had a responsibility to try to save his life.
Stories like Eric's and Governor Casey's reinforce the perception that organ distribution is unfair, and that may only discourage more people from donating their organs. A tragedy in a country where if just 10% of those who could donate their organs did, there would be no waiting list at all.
It was a miracle that saved Governor Casey's life, but it also left some people embittered, people who are desperate for a miracle of their own.
Is he someone special? Is he a special human being? Is he any better than my wife? Is he any better than anybody's wife or anybody's husband or anybody's child? There's people walking around in Pittsburgh dying because they can't get transplanted. So he goes in there and gets one in 2 days. And you tell me that's not preferential treatment?
As for Governor Casey, he hopes to leave the hospital sometime after the 4th of July. Dr. Starzl says that may be a little optimistic, but agrees the governor's doing well.
Coming up, movie bloopers. You caught the films. Did you catch the mistakes? We'll show you what Hollywood hopes you missed.
Bye-bye.
Plus our own hot shot, Dateline's Picture of the Week.
Attention thieves, flimsy locks on doors. Fencing back is so high, nobody can see you. Easy access windows, take your time.
It's the obvious but overlooked things that attract burglars to your house. To help make your home burglar-proof, see your Allstate agent. You're in good hands with Allstate.
When you choose a family car, you put all your eggs in one basket. So, when it came to safety engineering, Mitsubishi did the same thing. Introducing the all-new 1994 Mitsubishi Galant. It's everything you ever hoped for in a midsize sedan. And a few things you never dreamed of. The Galant from Mitsubishi. The new thinking in automobiles.
She likes milk and it shows. She's got great muscle tone. She likes milk and it shows. Strong, healthy bones. He likes milk and it shows. Baby, soft skin, bright eyes, a healthy grin. He likes milk and it shows.
Milk does a body good with vitamin A to help keep skin smooth, calcium for strong bones, and protein to help build muscle. When you drink milk, it shows.
She likes milk and it shows. It does a body good.
The success of any organization of human beings really depends upon how well they can work together. So we try to hire good attitudes. I think the easiest way to lose success is to become convinced that you are successful. I think American Express has a distinctive market. I've really been very appreciative of not just the card itself, but the service behind the card.
American Express is welcomed on airlines all around the world. Herb's kind of partial to his corner of the world.
The stars are back on NBC.
This fall, it's Valerie Bertinelli in a fresh new comedy. And Roy Scheider leading the adventures of Sequest. 4-time Emmy winner John Larroquette is back and lovable as ever. Cheers, Kelsey Grammer returns as Fraser Crane. And Bill Cosby is back on NBC. Now, for your favorite stars, there's only one place to be.
Yeah, the stars are back on NBC.
Look for them this fall.
Fabulous Fabio in his television singing debut.
Turn up the air conditioning, ladies.
On the next John and Lisa from Hollywood.
Weekdays on NBC Daytime.
Here again is Jane Pauley.
Florida is often called Hollywood East, but no matter which coast you're on, in the movies, everything's perfect. Flawless faces, manicured lawns, and parking's never a problem. But the truth is, not everything is picture perfect. Spotting mistakes on the silver screen can be great sport, if you know what to look for.
Action and adventure aren't the only things audiences are looking for in Arnold Schwarzenegger's latest movie.
That's a big
mistake. They made some mistakes in Last Action Hero and left them in on purpose. Did you notice? Susan Mollerstein was the script supervisor on the film. Usually her job is keeping the mistakes out.
It's my job to see it. It's my job to see everything. It's my job to see the elephant in the background. It's my job to see the button in the foreground.
There are so many mistakes in Last Action Hero, Columbia Pictures and Premiere Magazine are running a contest to see who can find the most.
Hey, Kit, you always said this is a movie, didn't you?
And there are things that we are all going to miss. And there isn't a script supervisor I know who doesn't dread certain shots that are going to someday come back and haunt you.
Schwarzenegger movies seem to have their share of continuity mistakes. In Terminator 2, Arnold's burned with a cigar, momentarily. And look at the beer bottle on top of the towel dispenser in this scene from Twins. Now you see it, now you don't. These mistakes happen because scenes that last only a minute or two can take days or weeks to film, and it's hard to make sure everything is exactly the same day after day. But they won't notice until they edit together all the day's filming into one scene. Fortunately, it doesn't happen very often, but you'll find them even in the classics. Like Casablanca, Bogey's getting soaked in a pouring rain, but in the very next shot, he's totally dry. Or this scene in North by Northwest. Notice anything? Look again. It seems Alfred Hitchcock had a problem directing extras. One of them's plugging his ears before any shot is fired. Cary Grant may be surprised that Eva Marie Saint has a gun, but that little boy isn't.
I think when people find a mistake in the movie, it's sort of like, aha, look at there, I found something. I'm as smart as these guys that put this movie together, you know.
The search for movie mistakes has spawned an industry of its own. Bill Givens has written 3 books on film flubs.
I've already gotten a couple of letters about a mistake in Jurassic Park.
All major theme parks had delays. When they opened Disneyland in 1956, nothing worked.
He was wrong. Disneyland opened in 1955, July the 17th, to be precise.
That's a small one compared to Gone with the Wind, where they refought the Battle of Atlanta complete with light bulbs, which hadn't been invented yet.
Kill me.
Or Kirk Douglas's Spartacus, who had a vaccination mark on his arm. The mistakes most people notice are the tiny visual ones, like this scene from Compromising Positions, when a member of the crew gives Susan Sarandon her cue, and his finger makes a cameo appearance. It seems that collars are a particular problem for Hollywood. Watch Richard Gere's in Pretty Woman.
She can't keep his clothes off. She tried. It has a lot of mistakes in it, and they were caused by the fact that they had to shorten the movie.
You must be really smart, huh?
One of the most noticeable is when they're having breakfast and Julia Roberts picks up a croissant and takes a bite from a pancake. The King and I has a really classic film flub in it. It's when Hugh Brenner is singing the song Is a Puzzlement.
In my head are many facts.
The real puzzlement in that situation is how come in all the long shots he's wearing an earring and all the close-ups he's not. And he goes back and forth from no earring to earring.
But none of these mistakes will kill a film that tells a good story. So if the city slickers ride by the flowers on Jack Palance's grave, and then they mysteriously disappear.
What are you doing?
Or if Mel Gibson's handcuffs break, and he has to hold hands as he jumps in Lethal Weapon. And if Ray Liotta's chain switches from a Star of David to a cross in Goodfellas, none of that matters as long as the movie has a big finish, like John Wayne in The Green Berets, where he walked into a sunset off the coast of Vietnam. A sun setting in the east. Oops. When we come back, our own Last Action Hero, Dateline's Picture of the Week.
It's a beautiful day here at the Maple Street 500. Here comes the Previa. Here's the driver, Dan Chambers. Who's the babe? That's Mom. Look out, Previa, hey!
handles that curve. Rack and pinion steering, bud. Pads in the lead car. Twin cam 16-valve power, dude. Way to go, Dad.
Guys.
Uh-oh. Gotta cut to a commercial. I love what you do for me, Toyota.
Hey, folks all over America trust their homes to Ace Paint. Here's why.
We make our own.
It's premium quality.
Your satisfaction's guaranteed.
Now get Ace 7-Star, our best flat latex house paint for only $11.99 a gallon.
Hey, Ace is America's place for quality paint.
Introducing the 1993 line of better cleaning scrubbing bubbles. Now with more shining power. Dow Bathroom Cleaner. We work even harder so you don't have to.
Good morning, sir. Would you care for a cereal?
Not just plain cereal. Let me tell you what really tastes great. First, I like to start with lots of delicious flakes. Then I'd sprinkle on a bunch of plump, juicy raisins and a few tender,
dates, sir?
Yeah, dates.
Almonds?
Almonds are crunchy, good call. And what if we sweeten it with some brown sugar?
Brown sugar, of course.
Can you really make something that good?
Trust me, sir. We'll get it right.
The one-of-a-kind taste of Kellogg's Just Right. When it tastes this great, you know it's just right.
Tomorrow morning on Today, we'll talk of what's cool and what's not for summer. Also, Gene Triplehorn and the Firm and Martha Stewart, too. Join us tomorrow morning and see what a difference today makes.
Unlike Arnold Schwarzenegger, 33-year-old David Gerard is not a household name, but he's our last action hero and the star of Dateline's Picture of the Week. Dave Gerard is a sometime daredevil who this week tried out his latest stunt, setting his cape on fire while being pulled on skis past a Knoxville restaurant. All we can say is don't try this at home. Don't try this on the water. In fact, don't try this at all. That's it from Tampa. See you next week. Stone?
Thanks, Jane. I'm Stone Phillips in New York. Thanks for being with us. For all of us here at NBC News, good night.
For a transcript of this program, please send a $5 check or money order to NBC News Transcripts, Box 7, Livingston, New Jersey, 07039. From our studios in New York, here is Stone Phillips.
If you saw Dateline last week, you may have thought twice as you were pulling in for gas over the holiday weekend. We showed you how easily gas stations can cheat customers at the pump. And with Americans buying some $2 billion worth of gasoline each week, even a little cheating can add up to a major ripoff. Reaction to our report shows there's more than just a little cheating going on. Tonight, Brian Ross is back with more on how you can be taken at the pump.
For people in the gasoline business, there's no more drastic action than what's about to happen here. A big oil company, Texaco, stripping one of its franchise dealers bare.
They're taking down anything that has a Texaco logo. Texaco sign. Yes, they can. Yes, they can, sir. No, you can't.
It happened in Southern California last week, in San Gabriel, just 72 hours after this and 4 other Texaco stations were named in our Dateline report on bad gasoline.
I thought the police face.
The dealer, Mari Kanawati, was so upset about it that Texaco had to call the police to protect its workers.
I sure not gonna do for you.
And under police protection, down came the T, and the E, and the X, and down came the Texaco star, as Texaco canceled its contract to supply both its name and its gasoline.
Today I buy gas Texaco. How can you put the sign down?
Dateline reported last week that Kanawati had been able to remain a Texaco dealer even after investigators caught him last year selling suspect, poor-quality gasoline.
Apparently the gas that you're selling here is not Texaco gas.
Texaco's gas, and I have receipt. Texaco's gas. Never, I don't buy gas for outside.
The now former Texaco dealer, Mr. Kanawati, claimed he bought all his gasoline directly from Texaco wholesalers. But authorities say what they found here in the pumps last year makes it unlikely that the gasoline being sold under the Texaco Star was actually coming from Texaco.
There is a fraud out there in the quality of gasoline.
Texaco's action came as welcome news for Maria Hernandez. She's one of the California investigators we saw last week working undercover, trying to get cheated at the gas pump. She told us she had been puzzled by the fact that stations caught selling bad gasoline had been able to remain as Texaco dealers.
It's a little puzzling, yes.
For its part, Texaco, in a letter to Dateline, said it only learned of the problems after watching our report, and that it was dismayed and upset about what we had found. Texaco said it took the drastic action because, quote, "We will not tolerate our hard-earned reputation being sullied by an unscrupulous operator." And Texaco said more stations could lose their Texaco Stars this week.
Can you hold on 1 minute, please? Good afternoon, Measurement Standards.
California investigators say the phones were jammed with new complaints about problems at the pump the morning after the Dateline story.
I need to know an approximate pump, and the reason being is that they go to the exact same pump that you do and purchase undercover gas from there.
And all the new complaints had Maria Hernandez back in action, undercover at the pumps. In this case, buying diesel fuel, which is used in many trucks and foreign cars. At the lab, the fuel Maria bought was found to be substandard.
And it can damage the car, it can damage the piston because it sparks more.
With Measurement Standards,
The next day, Maria moved in.
the diesel fuel did not meet specifications. So you won't be able to sell the diesel.
The owner denied any wrongdoing, but the diesel pump was red tagged, and more legal action is possible in what appears to be yet another case of cheating at the pump. As we reported last week, with the summer vacation season now in full swing, the American Automobile Association, the AAA, has issued warnings about widespread cheating at the pump, particularly in the 22 states where, unlike California, there is no regular gasoline quality testing.
You're talking a problem in the hundreds of millions to the low billions.
From the simple cheating at the pump.
Cheating at the pump.
Paul Burkyle, the president of the AAA, says the kind of cheating reported by Dateline threatens the integrity of the entire industry because it drives out honest gas station dealers.
It can create a situation where those who do cheat have competitive advantages against those who play it straight. And over time, your costs are going to be different, and you may force the good operator out of business.
In our report last week, we found adulterated and contaminated gasoline to be a widespread problem. These two samples came from Oregon, one with a layer of thick sediment on the bottom, and the other looked more like orange juice than the normally clear gasoline, not to mention the floating debris on top.
Now, would the customers ever know what they were getting, huh?
No, a customer would not know that he was getting...
And a former key man in a big California gas station chain, Ed Scott, told us how tanker truck loads of regular gasoline were secretly mixed at night with half a load of cheap waste oil, all to boost profits at the pump.
There were times that I saw samples taken out of their tanks where the gasoline looked like chocolate milk.
Dateline NBC went behind...
And also this week, in the wake of Dateline's story, there were new reports all over the country about suspect gasoline.
In Kentucky, about 8% of the pumps are inaccurate. In Illinois, the job of testing gasoline statewide falls on the Department of Agriculture.
In Indianapolis, reporter David McAnally found a classic case of what appeared to be octane cheating.
Investigators say the gas coming out of this pump was the same gas coming out of this one, from the same underground tank. People buying super unleaded were actually getting regular unleaded, but paying 6 cents more a gallon.
But it's not just the gasoline that can be suspect. Last week, investigator Maria Hernandez showed us how people get cheated right under their noses, right at the gas pump with rig pumps.
Can I go to the island next to the white van?
Using a special tank in the trunk of her car, Maria Hernandez says she was able to catch this gas station red-handed, shortchanging her. Dateline hidden cameras were rolling as she pumped gas into a tank that only holds 10.4 gallons.
11 gallons. 11.5 gallons now. So they cheated you?
Yes. It was a rip.
When the owner of the station, David Barry, showed up, he denied any cheating.
You have a switch somewhere you throw? You cheat people?
No.
You don't cheat anybody?
No.
But state investigators say they think the station used some kind of remote control switch to activate the cheating. And the case is now in the hands of the district attorney for further action. The case of the rigged gas pumps in California attracted a lot of attention from authorities around the country, particularly in New York.
We have found the same rigged devices at three...
Where the city commissioner of consumer affairs, Richard Strader, told Dateline this week his investigators have found a remarkably similar pump rigging scheme at a number of New York gas stations.
We found that we were paying for 7 gallons of gasoline, but only receiving 5 gallons. We then brought inspectors in, and we searched the panel board right by the cash register or the kiosk of the gas station, and we found some wires that obviously shouldn't have been there.
This is what investigators found, a jerry-rigged circuit board. The orange wires are not supposed to be there. But investigators say they were illegally connected, so the gas station could tamper with the supposedly tamper-proof gas pumps.
The 2 wires slow the flow of gasoline as it leaves the pump and goes into your tank, so that you're receiving less gasoline in your car, but paying more for it. Technically, you could jerry-rig this kind of box at any gas station in the country.
And finally this week, just when authorities thought they had seen it all,
That's our gas station.
an amazing case broke in Los Angeles that served to underscore just how much money there is to be made in cheating at the pump.
I have been a detective about 18 years. When we got into the scope of this is the biggest forgery activity in terms of victims and in dollars I'd ever come across.
Detective Robert Thorson of the Los Angeles Police Department says the case started with a tip involving a ring of gas station operators, for some reason, going around to other gas stations like this one to buy gasoline in the middle of the night.
I mean, it was a full-time job, sometimes 24 hours a day.
Police surveillance teams at first weren't sure what was going on until they realized that this truck and this car and a number of other vehicles had specially built fuel tanks that allowed the suspects to buy as much as 300 gallons of gasoline at a time, which they then resold at their own station.
And making many, many purchases a day. In fact, in one 10-hour period, we observed them purchase 1,800 gallons of gas and diesel. And then they would take these tanks of these vehicles that they had equipped with these special fuel cells back to their service station and put them into their tanks.
And what police discovered next should get the attention of millions of Americans who use bank cards or credit cards to pay for gasoline at the pump. Detective Thorson says the suspects were making their huge nighttime purchases with their very own customers' credit card numbers.
Say a person goes and uses a legitimate credit card transaction at the gas station. Well, those are recorded on a tape. At the end of the day, they can look through and say, hey, a guy used a Visa card, it went through just fine. Then they'll call up their friend and say, this is a good number. And then they'll encode a credit card and go off with that number.
2-0. On this day, the work of Detective Thorson and a special police task force was about to pay off as authorities moved in on what they are calling a ring of ingenious gas con artists. CNBC cameras were there as police discovered what they called the nerve center of the scam.
The computer, the encoder, everything's here.
In the back room, the computer was still on, loaded with valid bank card and credit card numbers from all over the country. And next to it, a machine police say the con artists used to encode the valid numbers onto blank credit cards, hundreds of them.
All they need is a list of good numbers, put them in the computer, and then just pass cards through them.
Parked outside, one of the cars used in the gas scam, with its huge 300-gallon gas tank visible in the back.
They open this up and put the gas right into the tank there.
And in the garage of the gas station, police say they interrupted workmen as they were building even more of the specially rigged vehicles, which had been stripped down to the frame to make room for the huge gas tanks. The men at the gas station denied any knowledge of what was going on.
I don't know nothing.
What? Really? Yeah. You know where the gas comes from that you sell here?
We bought the gas. I don't know.
You bought the gas?
Huh?
From where?
Well, I don't know. I'm just a worker over here.
But moments later, police arrested this man and 8 others on suspicion of grand theft and forgery. All of them recently arrived Russian emigres. Authorities told Dateline the credit card gas scam ties into a much bigger investigation of Russian and American organized crime in the gasoline business.
These groups are very well organized, they're very high tech, they're very sophisticated, and very profitable.
Dangerous, too?
I would say very, very dangerous.
Detective Thorson says there's more to come on all that soon. But for now, the job at hand is to track down the latest victims in yet another clever scam at the gas pump, one in which the crooks have found a way to use your credit card to buy their gas and then sell the same gas right back to you.
Many of the gas station scams we've uncovered came to light through consumer complaints. So if you suspect that you're being ripped off at the pump, report it. Call it into your state's Attorney General or the AAA.